Hello, everyone. Welcome to Jamaica 411. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm your host, Michelle Stern, and I have breaking news. Yes, the PNP had a press conference not long ago, this morning, and some announcements were made. They did some preliminary mentions of what they believe occurred in the elections. And of course, historically, they are not to be believed unless they provide evidence, because we have heard them, all of us, in lies, blatant lies that can be proved to be lies. Much less now they're telling us stories that they claim are true, that none of us know to be true, and they want us to, well, accept their word for it that it is true. And of course, only a fool believes liars. So we take what they say with a pinch of salt. However, the Englishman Mark Golding has something to announce.
And to defend the rights and interests of the Jamaican people. I am happy to announce that all our MPs elect, except for one who is traveling abroad, have signed a letter to the Governor General confirming their support for me to be appointed leader of the opposition.
So there you have it, our breaking news. Mark Golding, after two consecutive electoral losses, was reaffirmed, according to him, by the PNP MPs to remain leader of the opposition. And on what basis would they have done so? Well, the essence of the conference is to say to the comrades and the country that we came close. We were way behind in 2020. We gained 97,000 votes, and the JLP only gained 5,000 votes, of course. They failed to state that that 5,000 additional votes by the JLP was building on what would have been the low numbers of the JLP in recent times, from 408,000, while the 97,000 votes the PNP would have gained was coming from the second lowest since 1980 to 403 or maybe 404,000 by now after the final count. So they lost 127,000 votes in 2020 and gained only 97,000 votes. And then what is their reason why the other 30,000 didn't come up? According to them, there were voter suppression, people offering people money not to vote, and all of these would have taken place, for the most part, according to them, into the seats that they needed to vote to form government. So it is clear what their line of propaganda is in order to convince the comrades to re-elect him president of the People's National Party. Now, why would the MPs have reaffirmed him as leader after such a loss? So near, so far, it is still a loss. In our political system, there is no second prize for persons who lose. You lose, you have enormous amount of responsibilities in your constituency to account to the constituents. What you do not have is power. And without power, you have nothing but the right to speak in parliament and vote on bills. And two, you have the right to move motions, which now depends on the government side accepting the motion and voting with you so you can have the majority. So there you have it. So they are in the House as lawmakers, but they have no real power. So that is the situation. The MPs may have been deuced because when you look at the PNP side, really and truly, it is bare, very bare indeed. Many persons are ambitious and would like the leadership, but they may have decided that since he brought the party back to where, well, not even to where it was before, because they had lost 15 seats and only got back 14 after the same one engaged in a sabotage campaign. They decided to stick with the man. Perhaps he convinced them that next time we'll be able to do it. But that is heavily dependent on Wholeness and the GLP. Now, something that we need people to understand about elections in any country is that once you are elected to a government, you have the opportunity to find a silver bullet that is going to make you a Lee Kuan Yew. Stay in power until you decide to go. There are other parties in the world, like the ANC, for example, that have been in power for a very long time because of the support the party enjoys of the people. And you have many parties that have been in power for all 30, 40, 50 years through a fair democratic process. So I'm saying that in Jamaica, we have never had a party that found that silver bullet. So when you're in government, each of these parties are looking for a silver bullet that will let them remain outside of 2 terms and 3 terms. Yes, the PNP from 89 until 2007, they had an opportunity and they did much. They brought in the Fair Competition Act, which forced businesses in Jamaica to compete when they used to gang up against the people. They removed the tariff barriers and allowed competition to come into the market, which brought down prices in general. And because of that, even when things were happening elsewhere in the economy and businesses were crashing, the ordinary man found that the currency he had in his hand could buy him more if he is just prepared to walk long enough and look. And because of that, the PNP remained in office for 4 consecutive terms. So what happened? Bruce Golding came and campaigned on corruption, yes, but that was not his main focus. He was saying we can do better. And he has a silver bullet for the economy. And then he coupled that with free education and free health. And with the experience that people had with the health care system, where it was very expensive to do surgery, and they had to find money to pay, or they're not going to get any health care from the hospitals. A lot of people bought into that, and they bought into his freshness and his newness and his idea that we can do better. They took him on faith. Well, he stayed 1 term. Portia came, she stayed a term. Andrew came, and he's now in his 3rd consecutive term. First time in the history for the Jamaica Labour Party. And he now has an opportunity, and I'll tell you why. Because there's a difference between this particular leader of the Labour Party and many other leaders. It is true that the Labour Party appears to be dearth of plans and programs that is going to move us further. Let me give you an example or two of what I'm talking about. The problem with the value of the money in your hand and the devaluation and inflation. The devaluation is caused by an excess of Jamaican dollars over that of the US. We are not earning enough US dollars. If we were, the money would have been revaluing. That is not the case. Since the first oil crisis of October 1973 that threw us off balance when the OPEC nations decided that they were going to double or triple the oil prices, it has thrown us off balance. No government, try as they did, were able to successfully increase our exports or our currency earnings to such a level that it made our money as stable as it was in the 1950s and 1960s. No government. Try as every government may since the 1970s when we had capital flight and businesses closing, people moving out. Try as governments may, we have not been able to bring back the kind of investments in our economy in terms of whether factories or businesses mushrooming. That has not happened. Try as governments may. In the 1950s and 60s, we saw massive amounts of growth. There were mistakes made in terms of those companies that were allowed to operate under the various Encouragement Act. Mistakes because many of the companies that were getting a tax-free incentive to set up, they were not themselves earners of foreign exchange. So the economy locally was growing, but not the export dollar, and it caused a little pressure on the currency. In terms of the social pressures, try as every government may, they were not successful in bringing about the kind of social cohesiveness. Crime got out of control. Inflation was rampant, as well as poverty increased as a result of the fact that the currency that we held was losing value, both to trade deficits because we weren't earning enough foreign exchange, as well as to inflation. So every single person who held Jamaican currency were getting poorer and poorer. And of course, those who have very little of the currency, things were really bad for them. Now, we have been able to bring down the unemployment rate to 3.2%. Now, that is good. We have been able to bring the poverty down to 8%, and that was due largely to the increase in the minimum wage. But that monster called inflation, that greedy devil that is eating away at the purchasing power of our currency, and by extension, our wealth, still exists with us. The Bank of Jamaica is proposing to maintain inflation at 4 to 6%, right? Which to me don't make no sense, because after 10 years, it means that you would have been robbed 40 to 60% of what it is your currency in your hand can buy. So you are working and you are putting out the effort. And they say you must be productive. But the compensation that you're getting to be productive and make other people rich is devaluing every year and being eaten away by inflation. And that is a government policy. Now, all of that is the situation of today. High inflation, the cost of food price going up and down, water issues, road issues. We have a social problem. Crime is still a problem, even though it's not where it was before a few years ago. It's getting lower, but it's still high. And then there's the amount of money that you earn for doing a particular job here with a certain level of education that others are prepared to pay you 3, 4 times more elsewhere. Brain drain is a problem. Now, you can't solve that problem in opposition. You can only solve these problems in government. And the party that won the last election has the opportunity to come up with that silver bullet and therefore keep themselves in power for as long as the silver bullet effect will create an impression in the minds of the people. In other words, the government, whoever is elected government, they are the ones that have that opportunity to find that silver bullet. They have been failing to find the silver bullet. So the people keep changing them. That doesn't mean that that will continue into the future. And I'm saying here to you, my fellow Jamaicans, this young fellow, Andrew Holness, has one quality, even at the time when I thought him was a crook and thief and all that before the Integrity Commission investigation report. Well, when I went through it from cover to cover, dispel all of that in my mind, right? Even then, I had to admit that he had one good quality. He appeared to be somebody who listened. And he's somebody willing to take an idea and don't care what you want about it if it is advantageous to the people of the country or to his electoral prospects in the future, even if we were to put it that way. And therefore, he has an opportunity to come up with that silver bullet. So the PNP looking at the situation now and saying, well, we came close. We're going to get them next time if we get these 4 seats that we needed to form government. That will make, a 32-31 government. And believe that things are going to remain the same throughout the next 5 years. They may be making a colossal mistake. Colossal mistake because of the leader that the JLP has there now, the Prime Minister, Mas Andrew, and the fact that he listens and he's not afraid to take an idea and implement. And therefore, if a silver bullet were to present itself to him, it is very likely, if it not going to cost us a whole lot of money, and if it is implementable, workable, and is likely to produce an effective result, that he is going to take it. And then the whole dynamics change. And what will happen to the People's National Party? It would have a lame duck of a leader against a silver bullet found by the Labour Party. And that will then make them lose seats because any seat in Jamaica can be flipped. If you look at the voters list and the voter turnout, In most places, it's under 50%. It means that there are 50%, and in some instances, more of the people who are not voters. That don't mean that they will not vote tomorrow. And that is the point that I'm making. So for them to not look to the future at the very possibility that the government may find a silver bullet in this term and merely look at what they see in the future as them winning. It can only be so if the government continues on its present trajectory, and there is no guarantee that that will happen. So, we are living in interesting times, and we shall see in the few days coming if silver bullets will be offered to the government and whether or not they accept them, yes or no. So I am not going to bring you though any more information from this press conference. As far as I'm concerned, it is and was an effort to create all excuses that they need to maintain the present leadership of the People's National Party. We are looking at what happened to the Labour Party in the 1990s, where they had a leader that the membership said they want, but the people in Jamaica rejected. And they kept on keeping on with that leader, that is the Labour Party, with Edward Seaga. Every time he offered to resign, the people would vote that they want him to stay. But every time he went to the polls, he came up short. Again, he offered to resign. The people would not let go. They would not let go until the party suffered 4 consecutive defeats. What we're seeing here is history repeating itself. And all it does is to give the Labour Party more time to find that silver bullet that would keep it in power for a very, very long time, irrespective of who leads the People's National Party. That is a risk that they take. But then when you think about it, what else can they do? They did not win. And so, Mas Andrew, keep your ears plucking, Keep your ears open because silver bullets will be coming your way. And it is for you to recognize what it is and do what you know you need to do. And all of this because the People's National Party gave you that opportunity. Something must be going for you, my son, because 2 consecutive general elections, 2016 and 2020, the PNP was sabotaged by these same people looking to take over from you. And the whole universe is against them, and you see it for yourself. So you have an opportunity now to make something happen for the Jamaican people. Look, listen, and implement. That's my message to Master Andrew for today. Folks, I want to thank you all for joining me. I don't know if I've said anything that you may find pertinent and informative, but if you have and you like the content, please remember to give the video a thumbs up and share as well as subscribe. Until next time, take very good care of yourselves and walk good.